No, program auto is not a manual mode. You don't have a manual mode here, but definitely there are some other controls will be available in different other fashions. See, what I suggest is during the practical session when we are having the live workshop, that time compact camera owners, I'll explain you what you can use in that camera, because different the problem with compacts is different brands and different models will have different controls, unlike SLRs. Yeah, yeah. What is happening? The player is not. Okay, okay. I'll close it. Okay, okay, okay. It's already started. Yeah, fine. Yeah. So what happens is, as I said, in a Nikon, the shutter speed is S. In Canon, it will be TV, and aperture in Canon will be AV. I don't know what's in Nikon. It's A. Yeah, A. That is aperture priority and shutter priority on the mode dial. In manual mode, you can choose both shutter speed as well as aperture. This ISO on white balance, it depends on the SLR you are owning. If it's a completely manual one, it's a professional one, you'll have hot controls. That you'll be having ISO button and you can directly dial the ISO, and white balance also you can directly dial through. But most of the semi-professional SLRs you have to select through the menu. And second thing is the focal length, that is on the lens. So for example, in a kit lens, it will be from 18 to 55. So that's a zoom lens, and if it's a prime lens, you'll have only one focal length. So that is also a camera control. And focus is actually the frontal ring, the ring which is in the front. Yeah, yeah. For you, it's a IF, internal focus. So it will be in the rear. So that is actually bringing the image into sharp focus on the image plane. And choice of format is what I'm talking about, is about whether you want to shoot in a JPEG, RAW format, TIFF, medium, large. Not definitely talking about anything else. It's about the image format. So, and the color space is like RGB, sRGB, Adobe 1998 RGB. So like that, the color spaces are also available. So it matters a lot. I'll let you know when to use what, and the resolution. For example, you're going for a trek. So you're just shooting photographs of people and group photographs, etc. And you're getting your 5D Mark II with 21 megapixels. Do you think you're really going to use a 20 megapixel picture for a Facebook upload? Keep it simple. Make it 4 megapixel and finish with that. The camera will be fast. You will not drain your battery. You will not fill your memory card. Lot of things will become simple. And one more thing, when I'm talking about megapixel, there's something I want to explain which is outside this presentation. A 14 megapixel compact camera, or now even a mobile phone, I can say, no? Some of the mobile phones give like 8 megapixels, 10, 12, 13 megapixels and all. So it doesn't mean like you can actually print to that size. See, it's the size of the image sensor, it's the size of the number of pixels. But the how many number of pixels can be made useful? See, approximately while printing, at least in Chennai, labs printed 200 dpi. That means 200 pixels per inch. So that is considered as a good resolution if you want to get a good enjoyable photograph, whatever you call it as. So if it's a 14 megapixel, say approximately it has 4000 on 1 inch. So how many inches you can print actually? 14 by 200, 4000 by 200, how much? So yeah, 20 inch, 20 inches. But actually 20 inches is not possible in a compact. Everybody knows that. Why it's not possible in a compact? It has such a small lens here. the light enters through the lens should be able to resolve that resolution. Then it should be recorded in a sensor. The lens, first of all, is not able to resolve it. Whatever shit the lens gives, it is recorded in the image sensor. So that's why even as SLR, if you go to high contrast lenses, that will be more expensive, because even if you put it on a 21 megapixel 5D Mark II, it will be still able to resolve, and it will ask for even more. 70-200 f2.8 L Canon L series lenses, the luxury series lenses in Canon, or ED series lenses in Nikon, it will ask even more. It can resolve even more. If you're more interested in finding which lens gives a better contrast and better resolution, there is a site called DSO Optics, and there are so many sites which gives a review, and there is one site called luminouslandscape.com. You go to the sites, and there is something called modulation transfer function. Somebody is already throwing a slipper on me. Yeah, DSO Optics and Luminous Landscape. Just remember these words. I mean, it might not be worth explaining in this session. It will be too much. But if you want to compare lenses, it is using the modulation transfer function. So somebody has all the time, give me a call, I'll explain. Coming to our important control, aperture. This is one of the most important controls. One, it controls the exposure. Two, it is something you'll be able to control the depth of field. First, explain you about the exposure. Depth of field is one interesting thing everybody would like to listen. See, aperture, how it controls light means it is through the size of opening. If I close one of the doors here, lesser light will enter this room. Similarly, if it is f22, the aperture is almost closed and it's a small opening. So it allows a very little light. In f2, it is really wide open and it can allow more light. So what you need to understand is, when I close the aperture, it's lesser light. When it's open, it's more light. When it's almost open, the number is lesser. When it's almost closed, the number is larger. This we call as the F number. If I'm allowed to explain technically where this number comes from, probably I'll take 2 minutes, not more than that. It's actually the ratio of the diameter of the lens to the diameter of this opening. That is the F number. So, what do you see from this? Do you see any pattern? Any engineers, mathematicians here? Definitely, I know a lot of engineers here. Hexagon. What is the series? Are you able to find some pattern from 2, 2.8, 4? Before 2, it's 1.4. Let me give the clue. And before 1.4, it is 1. Before f2, the aperture is actually 1.4. That's the full aperture I'm talking about. You might have 1.8 lenses. That is a partial aperture. So before that, it's 1. 1 is the most expensive lens. I think there is only one lens which was manufactured by Canon and Nikon, and one by Cosina. So nobody has ever manufactured such a lens. You see some pattern, some progression. It's not doubling. Alternatives are doubling. 4 to 11 is not doubling. 4 to 8 is it's doubling fine. Yeah. It's basically the geometric progression of square root of 2. Square root of 2 is 1.4. 1.4. 2 times square root of 2. 2 power square root of 2 power 2 is 2. to the power, again, you make it 3 times, it becomes 2.8, that is 2 into 1.4. So why it comes? Because what is the factor for a circle? It's a 2. So, I mean, I don't want to explain that. So, it is just where it comes from. Yeah, it's d by small d ratio. So, the progression will be like that. I'll explain you later, somebody who is interested, before I can get a slipper on my face. See, what happens is, those lenses which give f2 2.8, they are considered as very fast lenses. There are lenses which can give f1.2, 1.4, 1.8, which are available. Canon has a lens 85 1.2, 50 1.8 and 50 1.4 is available with all manufacturers. So why those lenses are considered superior is because they allow a greater amount of light. F2 anytime will give more light. That means when you are in a darker situation, you will be able to get a higher shutter speed. I'll explain you why it happens. I have to explain another theory why it happens like that. So the more the light it allows, the lens is called a faster lens and it's more expensive it is. And another thing is, when the aperture is wide open, the depth of field is shallow. What is depth of field? What you can see? Motorcycles parked. The right side, if you see, the motorcycle parked in the front as well as the car is in complete focus. Okay, at least in my monitor I see it in complete focus. There at least you will be able to see the sharpness difference. So if you want to define depth of field for our understanding, I'm not giving a definition from the physics textbook and all. So you can define depth of field as the field where the photograph is in acceptable focus. The first bike, the last bike and the car, I'm telling it's acceptable for me. I can always agree that they are in focus. What happens in the left side picture? I agree that the front bike is in focus, but when it almost goes to the last bike, it is not in focus. And the car, it's barely up, seen like some kind of smudgy thing. So it is not in focus. So the depth of field in this picture, I would say it's from here to here, where it is in acceptable focus. Here, it is from the car to this first bike. Any questions here? I want to make this absolutely clear. I hope I'm simple. I'm communicating. Am I communicating? People sitting over there, if it's not audible, just call me and tell I'm not audible. I can scream even more. Yeah. See, what happens is, if the opening, for example, Peter, remove your glasses. Okay. Are you able to see me? Blur. Squint your eyes. Squint your eyes. Huh. Same thing happens there.
So the open lens is the left one or the right?
Huh?
The open lens is the left one or the right?
Open is the left one. What happened when your eyes were open? You weren't able to see me. So depth of field is shallow. When you are squinting, the aperture is it's actually your pupil in your eyes. The exact equivalent of aperture is a pupil. That's why it happened for Peter now. And lens is also there in our eyes. And our digital image sensor is a retina. Huh? Huh? See, aperture size chinnadana, f22 is smaller. Okay, I'm talking about physical size. Otherwise, photographers normally use f22 and things like that. So there, in your camera, it will be f22. It will not say it's a small aperture and a large aperture. If you want to still during demonstration, I'll show how the camera changes the aperture. You can physically see the aperture changing. The camera will squint before it takes a picture.
But f22 is a large or a small aperture?
It's a very small aperture. You can see that. You can see the hole there.
So the number is big and it's called small aperture.
Yeah, it's a small aperture. See, whatever you see here, the blades actually. This is a 8 blade. It's a 6 blade aperture. Good lenses have 8 blades. There are 16 blade lenses where it form a perfect circle. The moment the number of blades become less, it will form things like a hexagon and all. See, this is the same shape you see in the out of focus highlights. Sometimes you see hexagons and all, right? Round ones, hexagon ones. People normally refer it to as the bouquet. So, if it's a good lens, it will give a circular bouquet. If it's a bad lens, it might give a hexagon, or it might, for example, the Canon 50 1.8 will give a pentagon bouquet because it have five blades.
Big top. This is a small aperture has a
Depth of field will be greater in a smaller aperture. The moment you squint your eyes, your depth of field is higher. The moment it's f22, the aperture is smaller, therefore your depth of field is higher. Correct.
The aperture is small. All the light, right, which is center in the sensor. How come the DLF is less in that case?
It's see, it's the principle of optics. Then I have to get into physics of how the image is getting formed. It's a say it's like a diesel engine. What happens when you start? Do you get a torque when you're just moving a? I'm talking about traditional diesel engine, not a VGT. You won't get a torque. The moment it pushes up a particular RPM, you'll suddenly find a torque. It's called a turbo lag. Similarly, you have characteristics for lenses and optics. So when the aperture is small, it will be able to give a higher depth of field. That's the same